This is the ninth dialogue between J. Krishnamurti and D.Bohm in Gushtad, 1975.
I think your watch is a little bit fast.
Oh.
Don't go on. I'll try to be punctual.
Well, perhaps we should, go on with what we're discussing the other time, to clarify some of these points. And we were discussing the action of truth, and if I could sum up, I think on one discussion I said that, as I can understand it, the thought process may, if it is straight and healthy, it may become aware of the action of truth.
Yes.
And move in harmony with that. And on the other hand, the thought process, when it is distorted and conditioned, may not do that.
Yes, that's right.
But truth can actually act physically in the brain cells, is what we were coming
That's what we're talking about.
to bring it right. Now, and I thought,
Sir,
yeah.
would that be accurate?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you see, we're trying to go into that.
I think so, but
yeah, I know you think so. Yes, you see,
I feel that way.
I think we should discuss it a little while.
Little while, yeah, I think
because
so too.
It's a very important point, and it's quite contrary to our traditional scientific knowledge.
Nowadays, after reading that article...
Well, perhaps not after reading about parapsychology and so on, but since the scientific tradition is changing too. But,
yes.
But anyway, we could say, see, the brain is material. Now, I think we're saying that matter exists. It has an actuality apart from thought, but we don't know it. You see, we know only some of it. We say that's reasonable. In other words, the complete depths of matter are unknown to us, and will perhaps never be known. We may know more and more. And the brain is being made of matter, constituted of matter. We could never follow the complete unknown depths in which thought arises in matter, right? But thought has become conditioned over the ages. We said partly by heredity and partly through tradition and culture, environment. And it has been conditioned to self-deception, to falsify, to distort.
Yes.
And this is in the material structure of the brain. Now, and then we say truth. Well, I would like to add a point there.
Yes.
That we could, in one sense, say that this conditioning constitutes a subtle kind of brain damage. That is.
That's right.
See, I'd like to go on to that. If we take a piece of delicate electronic equipment, such as an amplifier or a computer, now if that is overloaded, then there is distortion. Now, if you keep on overloading it, you gradually may break down the parts, and therefore it will distort more.
Yes.
Now, so we could say that the kind of conditioning we were talking about, the conditioning which gives great importance to thought and to the self and the center, creates an overload. It overloads, distorts, and gradually damages the brain.
Damages the brain, yes.
In a way that is perhaps too subtle to be detected by scientific instruments, except when it has gone very far.
Yes.
Now,
completely.
But still, it is there, you see. Now.
Yes. Are you saying, sir, that when the brain is overloaded by environment, by economic conditions, social...
by fear and sorrow.
And all the rest, all the things that are going on in human beings, it does damage the brain cells.
Yes.
I think that is so.
Yes.
That can be accepted.
Yes, there's a real physical, chemical damage to the brain cells. Yes. And those damaged brain cells will produce thought that is inherently distorted. And therefore, as thought tries to correct that damage, it does so from a distorted... Because it is distorted, it must make it worse.
That's right. That's simple. Right. Now from there, Can there be a total perception which heals the
Yes, that's what we
completely.
discussed, to heal the brain cells. Now, so let's... there was something I wanted to say. Yes, well, that is the one point is that the brain does not recognize this brain
It's done.
damage very clearly, but it attributes it to something else. Do you see that? For example, it may attribute it to feeling uneasy, or or else to some external circumstances. In other words, or
It blames.
on anything else. Do you see
Yes.
it? And and I think that a great deal of this damage to the brain occurs in tradition. Do you see? It occurred to me tradition is a form of brain damage.
Quite.
That is
Quite. I agree.
any tradition, good or bad. That is what it does is it gets people to accept a certain structure of reality by very subtly, without realizing they're doing it, by imitation or by example or by word, by statements, and so very steadily the child builds up an approach in which the brain attributes things which are in the tradition to a reality that is there independent of tradition. Do you see?
That's it.
Right? And it gives it tremendous importance. And
You can see this in the oldest cultures, like in India, and this distortion and damage to the brain through tradition.
Right, I think it's in every culture. I was just reading about the people who originally lived in Australia, the Aborigines, and they have a very different tradition, which they have what they call dream time. In other words,
Sleep.
while they're dreaming, they think it's another time, which was also before being born and after dying.
I see.
And they have a tradition of getting into the dream time by means of a series of initiations and rituals at a certain age of adolescence. And in that dream time, they can function very differently. They can go into the desert and live there under conditions intolerable to ordinary people. So you see, it has a tremendous effect, this tradition. It has real effects of all sorts, which may even be valuable in some ways. But at the same time, it conditions the brain to a certain view of reality, which is fixed. And they say, or at least I read somewhere, that people who don't share this dream time are unreal, you see.
Quite.
Now, and in fact, the same thing happens in our culture, that we are, see, that was the point I wanted to come, I think we have to discuss culture at great length.
Yes, right.
Because now, in our culture, we get a conditioning which looks very different, but it is basically similar in structure as to what is sensed to be real and necessary and right, what you have to make of your life. You see what sort of person you should be, and so on, what's really the right thing to do. And all of this is picked up in very tiny little indications that don't seem to be thought, but seem to be the perception of reality.
Quite.
And therefore, the brain is beginning to treat thought as some reality independent of thought. It's becoming fragmented. And so that a person then may look at reality and say, that's reality. I've got to keep my feet on the ground, But this ground has been created by tradition, by thought. It's no ground, you see. It has nothing under it at all.
Quite.
And it is sustained by this brain damage, do you see? That is, it is nourished and sustained by this damaged brain, which is unable to get out of that circle. Now, but still, I think we have to go into culture very carefully, because culture also has valuable
It's certain values, yes.
values which cannot be discarded. And you see, one of the dangers that could arise in an uncritical look at what you say is that somebody might want to discard culture, you see, because it's not clear, you see.
So what does that word culture mean? To cultivate.
Based on cultivate, yes. And also cult.
Yes, cult, yes. That is to grow.
To grow. But that's also the basic meaning of the word create. I looked it up in the dictionary, is to cause to grow.
Cause to grow. Yeah, that's what it is.
So therefore, in some sense, unless we get it clear, we're going to be unclear about creation. You see, in other words, there may be some tendency to treat culture as creation. And yet, you see, we cannot discard culture and just drop it.
Drop it, quite, I understand.
But there is some confusion around it.
What do we mean by culture? That which grows, that which is capable of
growth. And which is passed on. You see, what grows passes on from one generation to another. See, even the word nature is the same root. To be born, you see, is its basic root.
Nature, of course.
And in Greek, the word is physis, the same as physics, which means to grow, you see. So these are very deep concepts, which are very general.
I mean, from the savage living in a cave to modern man is called culture, growth.
Yes, or the savage may himself have his own growth.
His own, of course.
I mean,
his own culture.
His own culture, and we impose our culture on him, and he breaks down, you see.
That's what's happened in various...
And then some anthropologists say his culture is just as valid as ours, and and so on, you see.
Yes. What benefit has culture?
Well, that's what we have to look into. You see,
that's what I'm asking. What benefit has culture?
Well, let's look at several aspects of culture. You see, science, art, music, literature, technology. And, I mean, at the very least, you say every culture has a certain technology with which it approaches reality. Certain methods have been developed to live, to grow things, to make things.
Has thought created culture? Of course.
It has, yes.
It has.
And that some culture seems to be necessary for man to survive, you see.
Yes. I wonder if it is necessary.
Well, perhaps it isn't, but at least it appears to be.
It appears. Let's question it.
Yeah. But I wanted to go a little further. You see that we take science as part of our culture. Now, art is part of our culture. Now, music, for example, you have often said you enjoy listening to good music, and that is part of our culture, you see.
Yes, I understand. But I think there is a danger, isn't there, of depending on it.
Yes.
Well, of using it as a means to go beyond or achieve or penetrate into something else.
Well, let's try to make that clear, you see, because, let's say, let's take the example of music, Mozart or Beethoven. Now, you say that here is would you say that there was some insight and something beyond mere the mechanism of thought to create that?
Yes, I thought about it too. Now wait a minute. You're a musician.
Well, let's say a composer. I mean,
composer.
A person who creates new music.
Right? Composer. And or composition, putting down the notes and all the rest of it is the work of thought.
Yes, but that's not enough to. I mean, anybody can put down notes.
But I want to go a little bit.
Yeah.
So that is the result of thought. Then wait a minute. Does he listens to the music, doesn't he, before he puts it down?
I don't know what kind of imagination he's got. Beethoven was deaf, but he somehow could imagine the music, I suppose.
But he must have heard it.
Well, he heard it when he was not deaf, but then when he made new music while he was deaf, he never heard it.
So you're saying the hearing is not necessary.
Well, perhaps in the beginning it was, but later it wasn't.
In the beginning, Beethoven became deaf. Therefore, in the beginning, it was necessary.
Well,
I mean, he heard it.
He heard it, yeah.
And when he became deaf, he no longer heard it.
No, he could hear no music. At a certain stage,
Therefore, how did he capture it?
I don't know. You see, I'd say through some kind of inner perception. As we usually call imagination.
Wait a minute.
He may have heard it inwardly.
Wait a minute, let's go slowly. It's all interesting. When you are speaking now,
Yes.
do you think it out and then speak?
No, you don't.
No. Why?
Well, it's clear that there is a formation of the meaning first. I mean, in other words, whatever I mean to say comes first.
How does that happen?
Well, I don't know if we can say exactly how. You see that.
Yeah, I mean, when I get on the platform, I talk. Fortunately, unfortunately, I talk. I don't think. If I thought it out, it will all go wrong. I've done that before. I used to write it down,
Yes.
enormous notes, and then go over it endlessly, make a resume of it, and then I would read it and one day done.
That doesn't go. But sometimes it is valuable to make very rough notes.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And Dr. Besant,
she
said
didn't
to me,
like me, yeah.
why do you bother with the notes? Just say what you want to say. First time I got really dithery about it, and gradually I said, what? Is there a thinking, hearing, the words, all that, when one speaks?
No, I mean, the speech comes before thought, as a rule.
Speech comes before... Just let us see that. Speech comes... But the speech, the words...
There is some scientific evidence on that, as a matter of fact, that it has been... People have watched carefully the kind of mistakes that are made when sometimes in words, the use of words, and I can't remember the details, but the mistakes are such that it looks as if an entire phrase or a sentence or a paragraph is formed all at once, and then it comes out, do you see? In other words, from the way the mistakes are made, it would only have been possible to make them if the entire structure...
But say, for instance, Dr. Besant was a great orator.
Yeah.
First or supposed to be. She said she used to see the phrases in front of her.
Well, that's one way, but...
Now I'm questioning, I want to marry a little bit. Does speech come before thought? I use English to tell you something. The usage of English is memory.
Oh, yeah.
And I use that memory and talk.
Well, in the same way, when you walk, you see, you had to learn to walk. And to a certain extent, that learning was,
Then becomes naturally easy
it becomes part of you.
Quite.
And the speech in the same way becomes part of you. Right?
Speech comes before thought.
It may. I mean,
it may.
There's some evidence that it may. Or else thought itself may be different from what we thought. I mean, what we, it may have a different structure from what is generally attributed to.
So we are talking about culture.
Yeah.
Culture is growth from childhood to manhood and so on and so on. The expression of one's feelings must be thought. Put it down paper, word,
or notes.
Notes, anything. And when you speak, when you deliver a lecture, you write it out, or you talk as you go, you express as you go along.
Yeah.
that means it must have all been stored up inside.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's that particular order in which it appears may be the result of perception at that moment.
Yes, that's what I want to get at.
Yeah.
That's what I want to get at.
I mean, some of the material may have been stored up, but then the particular way it comes out depends on perception.
Perception of what?
Well, that's what we want to find out, you see. I mean, it's...
Perception?
Well,
I talk, unfortunately, not fortunately. I seem to be talking, if I may be a little bit personal, from emptiness. I don't know if that from... I have talked for so many years. It comes now through long practice, you can say that the thing flows out.
yes.
But if I think about it previously, it doesn't flow out.
Or if you think, yes, I mean, but you may think a little, for example. I mean, at times you said, you told me, you were thinking about something this morning.
Yes, an idea happens.
Yeah, I know.
Something you see.
Yes.
But if I think about it previously and store it, then it goes, somehow it messes up.
Yes.
But I see something, then let it work itself out as I talk.
Yes.
So is there not a state, where thought is not in operation, as memory and all the rest of it? Yes, you're right. Perception. Perception as you go along.
Yes, well, we asked the question of what do we perceive?
Perceive, I'm just wondering, perception as we go along.
Yes.
That's right. That's what actually takes place. Now, what is perception there? Would you call it perception? Or I don't know. It's not insight. Then it's a perception. Insight is a perception.
Insight is perception. Is it to perceive, I don't know, when you understand, let's say you perceive the meaning of what is said, for example, as a
Is it possible to say something without the operation of thought, except the usage of words? I can't get at it. How does one talk?
Well, wouldn't it be possible that the movement of thought of words might be similar to any other movement? You see, if you perceive an object and you start to move toward it or away from it, it needn't involve thought.
No.
Or at least not, except for the stored up information about the object. But I mean, but it needn't fundamentally depend on thinking about it, right?
No.
Now, could you say that when we talk, the vocal cords respond in a similar way, you see, as they might to a perceived object?
Yes. But it's much more than that,
yes,
surely.
Yes, it's more than that, but I meant that the actual...
Either you see the words and you read them.
Well, I don't do that.
You don't do that.
No.
Or you have talked so long, one has talked so long, or so many years, it becomes not a habit.
Or a skill,
it-
perhaps.
Huh?
A skill. It becomes skill. There's a certain skill in
Skill
talking.
in it.
Yeah.
There's certain skill in it.
The whole thing takes place without conscious direction.
Yes. But that doesn't answer
No.
it.
Is there, maybe something relevant about if we come back to the unconscious mind as well, since part of the process seems to be not conscious. There may be that unconscious mind which is just dimly aware and repressed, but then sometimes one seems to regard the unconscious mind as something more than that. You see, for example, you have said at times that you were speaking to the unconscious,
Yes.
which
yes.
is a different kind of unconscious.
Yes.
And perhaps I'll just remind you, you probably know that some people studying the brain have found the two sides, the left and the right, and see, one is primarily verbal. I forget which. I think it's the right-hand side. I'm not sure. And the other side is primarily non-verbal. They say.
Non-verbal, yes.
And they call that possibly unconscious. See, there are cases where they have cut the connections, you've read about perhaps, between the two sides of the brain. And it seems when they are cut, one side doesn't quite know what the other side is doing. And one person may say in words that he doesn't know anything about something, when in his actual action he's doing it. As he may see something and respond to it with his movement.
Quite.
But if you ask him about it, he doesn't know anything about it.
Quite. No. This,
What?
no, quite. I understand.
So they have said that perhaps one side of the brain is the unconscious and the other side is, the verbal side is conscious. I don't know. But then obviously there's a deeper part of the brain, the base, which is common. No, that's the part where the feelings are, and it's the center of attention and the center of emotion and so on, which probably connects both sides, but it works on both sides.
Quite.
Yeah. Now, would you say that possibly there is an unconscious mind which is not merely forgotten or repressed, or, which works when you talk, you see?
I can't find it.
Huh?
Wait a minute. Sir, look. You make notes and you read. That's one way.
Yeah.
And if you have done that for a number of years, then you get a certain skill. That's one thing. Then, the skill in talking, but that's not the answer. What takes place?
Well, see, whatever you say does not come from the purely verbal part of the brain, you see.
Yes,
yes. Unless it's rather trivial.
Of course.
And now one view is that it may come from something deeper, which you're not conscious, generally. You see, there was, for example, these studies where the brain was cut, and it appears that, say, the perception of music is on this side of the brain, which is the opposite of the word. You see, the perception of visual things and so on. And there seems to be a function of the brain that is nonverbal.
No,
it may still be a thought of some kind, I don't know, very much less defined, not verbal thought. It may somehow, it can be conditioned, so memory may still be in it. Now, you see, what we're doing is we're coming out with, then there's a connection of those two, so the word could express something which is nonverbal.
So is there in the brain, untouched by culture, by anything?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a question that science couldn't at present consider, because it's beyond anything that anybody could do, because we don't know what that would mean, you see, from the material point of view. See, in other words, if we say there's a certain material structure to the brain, there's no way at present to tell whether it's been touched by culture or not.
Quite.
It's because at present our way of looking at it is too crude anyway.
Would you, if I say something about it, would you listen?
Yes.
Not discard it, throw it out. We said, let's begin. We said consciousness, content, and all the rest of it. If that content be emptied, and emptied in the sense no longer conditioned, is there a part of the brain where nothing, where no tradition, no time, nothing has touched? Nothing has made imprint on it.
Well, possibly. No, see, we wouldn't say possibly. It's a part. I mean, because you don't. Do you think it's somewhere a particular part of the brain? Or
Not only a particular part of the brain, but particular consciousness, which is not this consciousness.
Another consciousness, are you saying?
Another consciousness.
Right. Which may be another function. Or is it another part? Is it, what are you saying?
No, let me get
Yes.
My brain is conditioned. Tradition, culture,
Yes.
heredity.
All right, and that means it's damaged in some
Damaged.
Oh,
Damaged. And it has healed itself completely.
yes. You say it was damaged and healed itself.
Healed itself. Suppose I'm my brain. Healed itself. Now, it is unconditioned.
Yes, but how can it heal itself if it's damaged? You see, the question is, how can it have healed itself?
Heal itself by, through having an insight or perception which is not the perception of the damaged. Wait.
All right, I understand, yes. But we'll say the whole brain is not, the brain is not damaged through and through, but there's a certain damage to the brain, but there's
yes,
still a function that is not damaged.
That's right. And is there a consciousness which is totally different from the conditioned consciousness, which functions, operates when a really great composer has that
Perception. Well, we want to discuss the composer. Let's say it's Beethoven, and he's deaf, but he has a perception. Now, let's say we know his brain was damaged. He was often very disturbed mentally.
Very disturbed man, poor chap, I know.
And yet, you say there was a part of his brain or a function or something which could work anyway, despite that damage.
Despite that damage. Because if he was really damaged, he couldn't have been a musician.
If he had been damaged deeply, through and through.
Quite.
Well, it was. But would you say in general damage, even cultural damage, is not deep? I mean, it may appear deep, but perhaps it isn't.
Yes, I think it is not too deep.
Not too deep, no.
Would you say that?
Yes, I mean, it works on a certain
After
level.
all, my brain is damaged in tradition. I can step out of it.
Yes.
The brain says, rubbish.
Yes, well, the damage is in certain functions of the brain which are based on memory.
Yes, and you can put it aside.
Memory is not really a deep function of the brain, you see, though it may appear, it may
That's right.
treat itself as deep, you see, or attribute to itself the depth.
And if I'm a Catholic, I talk with you, and the reason you show me all the rest, I say, finished. I'm out. No longer a Catholic.
Yes. Well, in general, you see, I mean, in principle, I think it's right. What actually happens is that a person may see this in a flash of insight, but a certain part of the damage attributes to itself
fear.
Yes, it attributes to itself the property of being very deep and beyond thought. Do you see?
Quite.
And therefore, it escapes this insight. Do you
Yes.
see? It doesn't mean that the damage is deep, but the damaged part attributes to itself great depth.
Yes, quite.
Now, so that often it is not enough merely to say, a person who's a Catholic, it might be explained to him and he'll see it in that moment, but a little later...
No, wait a minute. You say I'm attached. Say, for
Yeah.
instance, I'm attached to my wife
Yeah.
or to something. And because I respect and I listen, I'm fairly sensitive to what you're saying. Then it's finished. It's over. Deep. I'm never attached anymore.
Well, it doesn't commonly happen that way, you see.
Why?
Well, that's what we want to find out. I mean, I was proposing one reason, which is that this conditioning attributes to itself some significance which is very deep and beyond mere memory and thought. You see, let's say, suppose I'm a Catholic and I'm brought up in the Catholic tradition. I've been exposed to it, very non-verbally and subtly. It has left all sorts of marks, and then when I become a bit frightened, once again, it all seems so real, you see.
Yeah.
And therefore, I forget what you've said.
Of course. But is it... No, wait a minute, I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't, that's too easy.
No, but that's what actually happens. I think.
Actually, but I think there's something deeper than that.
Right, what is it?
Let's
Yeah.
go into it a little
Right.
bit. I'm just saying, it may not be. If I listen to you, because you are serious, you have detached yourself, and you show it to me, and you say, look, listen. And because I respect you, because I listen to you, because I'm attentive, what you say has a tremendous meaning, and it is true. The truth of it, not the rationalization of it, but the truth of what you're saying.
Yes, but that there is the tremendous tendency in this traditional conditioning to resist that truth.
I'm not resisting it.
Yes.
I'm, of course, because first of all, I want transformation. That's basic necessity for me as a human being.
Yes, but then there's the other necessity of security, you see, which we discussed.
You showed to me through transformational boy, there is tremendous security.
Right, but you see, isn't that shown?
Wait. You see, you point out to me that if I transform myself totally, you will be eternally eternally safe, secure, all the rest of it. Because you have seen it, because you have got it. To me, then it's when you say something, it's a shock. I see it. But if I haven't transformed, if I'm a crook, phony, then whatever I say, well,
Right, but then how do you account for the fact, that you've been talking for so many years and, it has had...
I think so. Basically, people won't listen.
Yes, but now let's come to that. Why not? You see, we're still on the same point.
Same point. Why not? Because I don't think they're interested.
But why not? You see,
Because, why should they be interested?
well, because life is such a mess,
But they do. But it's all... They have their little harbors in which they're sheltering themselves.
No, but that's an illusion. I mean, why do they...
You say it's an illusion. To me,
them,
it's not.
I know it. I know, but why does the brain resist seeing this illusion? You see, very often people get shocks which show that something is wrong, and then
They go back.
They go back. No,
Of course.
and the question, you still have. See, we have to get through this tendency to go back. That see, whatever the shock may be, the brain may go back. Do you see?
Yes.
Even let's say we listen to the person who really sees, and there's a shock, and maybe the brain will then go back later.
You're asking, why does it go back?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very simple, because your habit is tremendous years of tradition and all the rest. Habit.
Yes, but then that's still the same.
Same circle.
The same circle. You see, the only answer which is an adequate one is one that will stop it. You see, in other words, that as I see it, an explanation which doesn't end this thing, you see, is not a full explanation.
So does explanations...
Yeah. It doesn't do, but you just explained it by saying it was habit. You see.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I say it's habit, and we can go back and forth.
That doesn't get anywhere.
That doesn't get anywhere.
No.
So what makes me break, and what brings about to the damaged brain a total what?
Yes, it will see and not go back.
Not go back. It's a man sees organization of any spiritual movement is useless,
Yes.
and he drops it instantly, never goes back to it, never cultivates it, never organizes it again. Now what has taken place in that man? He perceives the truth of it.
Yes, but let me say something. You see that you have said that man, that young man, was not actually deeply conditioned in the first place. Let me tell you. Now we have to consider another man who was deeply conditioned in the first place. Now let's say there's the man who was not deeply conditioned in the first place. He sees the falseness of organized pursuit of truth, and he drops it.
Drops it. Now,
that's fairly easy because it was never very deep.
Yes,
you see.
but the other man is conditioned.
Yes, much stronger.
Much stronger, and he may temporarily see it and then goes back to it.
Unconsciously, it begins to slip back. You see.
Yes. Can that man be shocked? I mean, after all, there have been electric shocks to an insane man.
Well, they don't make, they don't really change much.
They don't change much. Can you shock me?
Well, yes, at other times you've said, shocks are no use. You see that.
I know, I'm just asking.
Yes,
I can shock you, but I go back more.
It'll go back. I mean, it may work for a while. You
I
see.
know.
Now,
So what is the thing that makes me see something and end it and not go back? Do you see that thing?
what, floating in the air? You mean?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
a feather.
Yes.
What makes it? See, sir, because they haven't been able to do this, they say, well, only for the few.
Yeah.
Not many. Many cannot change.
Well, yeah. One could put it like this: that perhaps the brains have been damaged too much
Too
for
much.
most.
Yeah. Yes.
You don't accept that.
I don't quite. That's too easy. What makes You see something and it's finished. Right? I don't see it, but you point it out, I see it, and then for a few months or days, I see it, and suddenly it disappears. I'm back into that.
So I think it's more likely to say you're gradually slipping into...
Slips out.
Yeah,
all right.
Slipping into the old...
Old habit. No. What is the thing that makes it? So is it, is it is attention a conscious process?
Well, apparently, we can say it's not. You see that?
Yes. Huh?
It may be this unconscious that we talked about.
Yeah. If it is not a conscious or unconscious process, that is not a process of time, not a process of thought, which is conscious unconscious. Is there another kind of attention which acts and it's over? I'm just trying to find out.
Or would you say, as we said the other time, that it's something beyond attention that acts?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
If you tell me, rationalize my attachment, my reactions, my defenses, my etc., etc., rationalize it, I listen rationally, logically, and it's still within the field of thought. And within the field of that thought, whatever thought does cannot produce a permanent radical transformation.
Yes.
Now, you have explained to me rationally, and you say that is not enough. You won't change if you remain there. You'll go back to it. And you point out to me, you say, look, don't think. Don't ration, just listen to me. Don't control, don't resist, just listen. That listening is not, you are not appealing to the rational, thoughtful process. You are appealing to something that's beyond thought, beyond my usual consciousness. You are appealing to something much deeper in me. You are touching, which has nothing to do with rational, with the movement of thought. Would that be right? You are appealing to me at a level of which I am not aware, of which I am not conscious. And you are appealing. Oh yes, wait a minute, sir. You are appealing to me at a level which may be called compassion, which is not at the level of thought. if you appeal to me at that level, how can I can't go back to the former habits, and I can't go back. Is that possible? So, is love the factor of profound change? Not all the movements of thought and all the explanations, all the pros and
What would you say? Is it truth? You see, previously we said it was truth.
Truth.
But is there a distinction? You see,
No, of course not. It's the whole thing. Truth is love and compassion, everything. I just want to see if that is so. Can you appeal to, can you, out of your compassion, out of your love, touch something in me that transforms me? Because to you there is that truth. You see truth as something, all that. And you live in that. You have that feeling of, all that. And from that you speak. And you say, well, my friend, you have tried to do it for 50 years and you haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
And to that there would be ordinary answer. The brain are too damaged. And therefore there are very few brains who are not damaged. Perhaps you can affect them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Well,
but that is not a complete answer.
Mm.
Therefore we go back to the old thing, only a few. We follow all the rest of it.
Well, one view would be that only a few in this would spread or something like
Yes,
that.
yes, few means spread and all the rest.
Yeah, no.
Now that you follow.
Well, no, you're not accepting that.
No, but that's back into culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Back into time, back into the whole business of it. Tradition. Again, a new damage. This is what actually takes place.
Wait, now you're saying that, yes, if we are using culture in order to bring order to the mind, then this will damage the brain. Right? But then what can we use culture for? And we can use it technically, or you can enjoy it, I suppose. You enjoy the music.
Now, so just a minute.
Yeah.
Now, what shall we do? You speak out of that, out of the depth of that, something immense. And I listen to you, and you affect me at that level. It is a temporary affair. And I go back to my old damage. You have healed me, not completely, partially, and the old damage takes over.
Yes, slowly.
Or can you heal me? You can't heal me. You are talking to me at such depth that very listening is healing the whole thing. Why doesn't it happen? you tell me very clearly, don't be attached. And you explain to me. And your explanation is out of that compassion, out of the perception of truth. And I see it, I have an insight into it, but I lose that insight.
Yes. You see, I think that maybe there's some clue in the nature of the brain damage. You see what it does, that insofar as it distorts perception. You see, the whole thing depends on perception. Huh?
Yes.
Clear perception. Now, this brain damage, you see, can produce what appears to be perception, at least what it takes to be perception. That,
but
I mean, the difficulty is that is what comes in slowly, unconsciously. You see, an attribution of things, of properties, which the brain takes to be the same as perception.
Yes.
Now,
but you are appealing.
I know, I understand.
You are appealing to something much greater. And I respond to it for a few days, a few months, and it's gone. Or I say, please remind me of it. Let me read books and keep on memorizing that you follow, and I lose it. Why? Is it, sir? I will come back to something. Is it that my brain not only damaged, but refuses to see anything new, because whatever you say might lead me to such danger?
Well, the brain attributes danger to seeing something new.
Of course.
You know, it appears to perceive danger. That
Yes.
is, in other words, something happens in which the brain projects danger into that situation. It is thought, but it comes back as if something seen, do you see?
So you say, so you attack fear? You follow?
What?
So you talk about fear, you talk
Yeah.
about pleasure, you talk about
Yeah.
suffering, and you say, look, please listen to me, for God's sake, out of your heart, listen to me. But I listen to you, but I go back.
Well, you know, you can keep on see, there's also the culture which continually brings it back. You see, there's in any relationship within this cultural frame of reality, that frame of thought is already there.
Already there.
You see, so
So everything is quite. Now, how does this operate? Are you appealing to me, talking to my daily unconscious consciousness? Are you talking to me, showing in that consciousness there is no answer? Are you talking to me at that level? Or are you talking to me not only at that level, because you have to talk at that level, but you also talk to me at a much deeper level? And it may be I'm not used to that deep level.
yeah, so that could be.
Huh? I think so, there's more like it. I've always gone to the well with a little bucket. And you say, look, that little bucket won't do anything. You just it'll quench your thirst momentarily. So you're not talking to me at the level which I'm used to. You're talking to me at a deeper level which I'm not used to. And I get used to it while you're talking to me. And the moment you stop talking to me, it's gone.
Or at least in time. Either that moment or later.
Yes, I mean.
But,
so I'm not... Is it, sir, that I want to reduce everything into habit, the brain? You follow what I mean? What you say, I see at deep level. And what I have seen, I reduce that or make that into a habit. And therefore, I lose it. And you tell me, at that leap level, there is no time, there is no habit. You can't capture it by your brain. Your brain will make into a habit, into a tradition, into another damage. So you say, don't do that.
Yes, well, the thing is that thought tends to accompany everything that happens, you see, and it gives an imitation, an accompaniment, like music or accompaniment, which builds up, and that becomes the habit. Now then the thought takes that habit as the same as the original. Or at the beginning thought says the accompaniment is helping, and later it mistakes that accompaniment for the thing itself. Right?
Yeah. But you tell me, see the whole structure of thought. Be tremendously aware of it.
It seems to be part of our tradition that there should be some thought, that this thought should not stop, that...
Yes.
That... in fact, every tradition must demand that thought doesn't stop,
Yes, of course. Quite right. Every tradition is that.
You see, I think I was reading, this may add a little bit, that, when children are brought into a tradition, you can see that when they follow the tradition, you see everybody says, that's right, you're good, and so on, and when you don't follow it, they say, no, you should, no, it's bad. And so that the child begins to feel very good and secure in the tradition. See, when he's following tradition, he feels he's a good boy.
Good.
And when he's not following it, he's a bad boy. And so therefore, there may be a habit of going on with that whole tradition, fitting into it, either the momentary one or the old one. And also, thought becomes disturbed and frightened, you see, and moving out of the tradition, you see, that you will lose that security, that belonging to a community in which there is consensus about what is real. You see, it's much deeper than personal gain, even.
Gain, of course.
Because this community gives a consensus as to what is real and right and true and good. And when you're in it, you feel it's all settled, you see, it's safe.
It's safe, quite.
And therefore, getting out of it might mean, chaos. You see, it means the entire. You see, I think that when it's not generally realized, how significant it is to be out of tradition. You see, mostly you say, "Well, I'm free of tradition. I don't do this," or "I'm not a Catholic anymore," or whatever.
But that's not it.
But tradition goes back to that feeling of belonging to the family and the community,
of course.
And of being sort of felt that you are approved of because you are not only doing what they say you're supposed to do, but believing what you're supposed to believe and believing in what is real. You see, see, everybody, I think we're trained, this tradition includes belief that we have a correct consensus as to what is real, do you see? In other words, that we don't create our reality.
Yes, quite. I understand all that.
But in fact we do, you see. But you see, and now all of that goes against, now if you say we're going to talk to this deep level.
Yes, it goes against all that.
It goes against all that. And that, works in very subtle ways to start working,
So just a minute.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to reach all of that.
Can you, who speak out, you are talking from that depth to me, and I have this, I don't even talk about it. I have an insight into it. I feel it. I know what. Can you not help me? Can I sustain it?
Yeah, that's it. It's a question. So there's no tradition of man's tradition of mystery, man's tradition of rationality. You see, in other words, man's old tradition was mystery. Then came the modern tradition of no mystery, of rationality, of being. But to be free of this, of every form of tradition.
Yes, sir. That's what you are asking me.
Yes, I mean...
you say, look, every form of tradition.
And you see, at first sight one would say, well, you can't do it. You see, in other words, because one feels, culture gives you your culture gives you the chance to think of and look at these things and so on.
It also gives you safety, it gives you security, place in the community.
And also
family,
it gives you an order in the mind and so on and so on, you see. Now, now, you see that the point is that all of this is the result, is damage, is somehow, is distortion. It's the damaged brain, you see. I think that's the firmest point that I can say. You see that
you have explained to me all that.
Yeah.
You as clear verbally, intellectually, every way you made it perfectly clear to me. Fear is involved, a place is involved, security is involved in tradition. If I leave it, etc.
Distortion. It's the readiness to believe whatever will make me feel better and so on.
Yeah, all that. And you say, I'm not talking to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I talk to that, you are merely going round and round in circles. Right?
Well, beyond a certain point.
Beyond no. You're not talking to me at that level at all. You're talking to me at a level which is not this.
Now that you say that's the function or the part of the brain that is not conditioned, is not.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. But there is a depth which is not touched by the brain.
By the brain.
By the traditional brain. By the damaged brain. By the brain which is conditioned, which is all the rest of it. A depth, a dimension which is not touched by thought. All that's what you have said about tradition. Everything is the process of thought, and that process of time has not touched this. You talk to me, you showed it to me. And if there is an action from that, the brain can never be damaged again. It may be that you are talking to me at that level heals the brain completely.
Like you were saying last time that there's a direct action on the matter of the brain.
My brain. I think there's something in this.
Now, is this the only way? Not to say that you see, that it depends on somebody having appeared who was not conditioned, who can talk from that depth.
Naturally, if you're healthy, you can talk to me.
Yeah, but I mean, so that if there were only conditioned people, then they would never find a way out. I mean,
Absolutely. How can the damage involve the rest of it?
Yes, you see, it goes against
Tradition,
the modern tradition of saying that, even some of what you say, that we must discover. See, let's try to get it clear. We must observe and discover and find our way out. Now, if the brain were not damaged, then it could do that, obviously.
Yeah.
But see, if it is
being
damaged, it cannot do it. Therefore,
but that's it.
Fine.
You realize it cannot do it.
Yes.
Therefore, you stop.
You stop. But I mean, it was you who was the one who was not damaged who communicated this, right? Who from at a depth, right?
Yeah. Let's wait. I realize by your talk, by reading, talking, it doesn't matter how I realize, that the damaged brain, whatever it does, will still be in that area.
Yes. Now there may be see that there's the tendency of this damaged brain to come to conclusions and present them as facts. Yes.
Therefore, I realize all the tricks of the damaged brain does.
Yes, and see, one of the tricks is to say, nothing can be done.
Yes, nothing can be done.
Leave it go, you see.
Quite.
Or else I'll keep on working on it. You see,
I don't know if you saw it on last night. Young man singing these folk songs and all that. Thousands of people. It is another, you follow, sir? Science.
Yeah. What do you mean? That was another attempt of the brain to heal itself?
Yeah.
In a false way.
False way. To escape, it can't do anything socially, it can't do anything morally, it can't do anything scientifically, it can't do anything artistically. At least it can go and listen to this rot going on and wobble about the place. Can the damaged brain, of course, if it is completely damaged, you can't do anything.
No, you see, then there's always the feeling, that if something, one has to look at it carefully, if something has been damaged materially, perhaps it can never be repaired. You see it. No.
Quite.
Therefore, we don't know. We don't know, right?
We don't know. Unless it's completely damaged, you can't do anything about it. You can ready for an asylum or whatever it is. But we are talking of fairly not too damaged brain.
Well, then we don't know. But say that you cannot know whether the damage can be healed or not, right?
Yes.
But then...
No, wait.
Yeah.
You talk and you explain all this. And you say, whatever the damaged brain, which is the result of thought and tradition and all the rest of it, whatever it does, will produce further damage. So, because you say that, you point it out, I realize that. That is the first necessity, isn't it? I realize it. Then you after I've realized it, you talk to me at a depth which is nothing, which thought has not touched. You see, no, I simply want to You planted a seed, and then all that's wrong. See, my question is, sir, why do I, once having had an insight into that depth, why should I be caught and go back into the old thing? That's what the question is. Will I ever go back? If I've really, if you have pointed out that depth, and I have an insight into that depth, and I perceive that depth, can I ever go back to the other? However, will not, you are saying, act as a tremendous shock or tremendous jolt?
Well, I mean, there is this point we were just discussing that the brain may get used to any shock or a jolt.
I know, that's what I'm...
And therefore...
Therefore, I have to be very, very clear. The structure of thought and all the rest of it, absolutely clear. Otherwise, the depth becomes the habit.
Mm-hmm.
You are pointing out to me the whole activity of thought. Thought, because I'm very serious, I'm very concerned, thought does stop. And the feeling of the depth can never become a habit. Because when depth becomes habit, it becomes pleasure, tradition, all the rest of it. Fear, losing it and all that. Now, is that depth within consciousness?
Well, you see, before, you said there's another kind of consciousness.
That's right, it's not in that consciousness. That's what I want to get at, too. It's not...
Well, perhaps we could say it's neither in this right half of the brain nor the left. I mean, that...
Yeah, I don't know anything about the right or left. But it's not in the area of thought. Thought cannot capture it.
Now, you see, there's this other consciousness. Would you say this is still a function of the brain, right? Do you mean to say that it's going on in the brain?
Now, if you say brain, in the sense it is a product of time.
Well, I don't know whether it's the product of time or not. You say
it's a product of evolution, product of great, from the cell.
Yeah, we still haven't made some of those points clear, because you see, if you say nature is continually, it's cultivated, it's growing, and wouldn't you say that there is a creation in nature as well, right?
Yes.
Now, would you say nature is the product of time?
It is and it's not. Surely.
Yes, well, that's what we're trying to get hold of.
Yeah.
You're saying that maybe it's so of the brain too, because the brain has arisen in the same way as other natural things.
Or is it? Yes.
Right.
Or is it cultivated carefully?
Yeah. But I mean, if we take the evolution of all sorts of plants and animals naturally, now in one sense it seems to happen in time, right?
Yes.
One animal's born, it dies, the next one, so on. You see, so you have growth.
And generation of instinct.
Yes, but then there's change. No. There's always a mutation, and then another growth occurs, and so on. Now, see, wouldn't you say that's a kind of creation? I mean, you see, meaning creation, meaning cause to grow, right?
Yeah, creation in the sense, yes, to create, cultivate, yes, growth. And then what are
All right, now the brain has grown also in such a process, you see. You see, one has to get clear about this time, because let's say there were the animals and there was various mutations, in monkeys, the other animals, and and there were creatures with bigger and bigger brains producing finally modern man. Now that seems to have taken time, you see.
Yes. Yes.
And
it seems to have taken time, yeah.
Although I don't know if you would agree entirely on that. You say it has and it hasn't, I mean.
I'm just asking myself. I suppose it has in one sense, hasn't it?
Yes.
So the brain is not only the product of culture and time, but isn't there also a thing, part of the brain, outside the brain, which is not of time?
Well, that's the thing we want to come to, you see, because there is a structure of the brain which has evolved through time. You see,
granted.
And that may go beyond thought, that structure. You see, for example, it may involve attention, awareness.
Yes, it may involve, I see what you're trying to say. Wait.
Yeah.
You're saying brain evolves in time. In that time, there is awareness, attention.
Yeah, beyond thought. It's
beyond
not culture, not thought.
It is still within that area.
Of time. Yes, it's as all sorts of species have appeared in nature. And see, in some sense, it seems that some kind of creation goes on in nature, which appears to involve time.
Yes.
Although perhaps very long time, but...
Yes. I understand this. Now, is attention...
Now, at least the brain which can give attention to, it took time to evolve, right? The brain which is able to have attention. You see, let's take a much smaller brain of, say, a small animal. Now, its attention is in some way a lot less than what is possible to a man, or would you?
Of course.
And the difference of those two took time for the brain to evolve.
Yeah, yes.
So the capacity for attention depended on time.
Yes. But is there an attention which is not of time?
No, is there, you see. That's the attention itself may not be of time, do you see? I'm trying to say that the brain...
Yeah, attention itself is not of time.
No, the ability of the brain to have attention depended on time, you see. On a structure.
Yeah, the capacity, yes. But attention itself is not
of time. But it may be taking place in the brain, right?
Yes,
not of
that's
time.
right. That's right. Yes, attention itself is out of time. But the capacity to have attention may involve time.
It involves growth. Culture.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, you see, you have also said that as the brain grows older, it grows more mature. As its capacity in some way improves, right?
Yes, if it is, of course.
Yeah, and that seems to involve time in a way.
Quite.
So therefore, in some way, time is involved to produce a certain capacity.
Capacity means time.
Yeah, but now something may happen within that capacity, are you saying, which is not of time?
Yes, that's right.
So that in some sense,
attention in itself is not time.
Yes.
But the capacity to have attention may involve time.
It depends on growth.
Yes, and all the rest of
it. The young child has a different capacity.
So we are saying growth is time. Time is necessary, but attention is not, right?
Yes, and truth is not.
Truth is not.
Compassion is not.
Yeah, passion, none of that is in time, right?
And that compassion or truth may operate on the, you're saying, on the material structure of the brain. So
Yes, sir.
that
Yes, sir. Yes.
and so on.
Yes.
So the brain has changed physically, and
Physically.
even its time behavior
Yes.
is different.
Yes.
You see,
Yes.
something new is introduced into time. I mean,
That's right. That's right.
but I mean, while we're at it, you see, we could get more clear on creation, because you see, creation means to cause to grow, we say literally, and the now you say perception is creation. You have said, right?
Yes. Perception is cause to grow.
Is it?
No.
No, but I'm trying to get it clear. Creativity is perception, you see.
Yeah.
But you see, we have to get clear on what is meant,
Yeah.
because you see, ordinarily the very word creation means to cause to grow, and we can say nature is creative; it causes new species to grow, and so
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
Now, then, in what sense is man creative? Do you see? In what sense? You see, he may. Let's say Beethoven had an insight, and this gave rise to certain new music, right? So in
Yeah.
that sense, it caused new music to
Quite.
grow.
Grow.
But I want to be more clear about creation, you see.
But sir, was the thing, the depth was that, the depth which produced that
Yes.
music, the depth is not of time.
No. No, but couldn't we say that perhaps even in nature, the depth which brings about something new is
Exactly.
not of time? You see that, in other words, the mechanical explanation of nature is only limited.
Limited.
It won't cover everything.
Agree.
And the creation of new forms in nature may also depend on what is beyond time.
Yes, maybe.
Maybe,
Yeah, maybe.
we don't know.
No.
But
in human, I mean, one can see from oneself, compassion is out of time. Truth is out of time.
yes,
And the depth from which that comes, that compassion, is out of time.
yes.
And therefore it is not cultivable.
No, it cannot be made to grow. You
Grow.
see.
It cannot be made to grow.
So we say the origin of the essence of creativity does not grow, is what you're saying.
That's
but
right,
but
that's
creativity may cause something to grow in the field of time.
Yes.
Is that
I mean,
fair?
yes. Yes.
Because it could, for example, well,
Yeah, that's quite right.
because anyway, that's what we have in mind, that the new perception should cause the growth of a new society or a new man, right?
New man, quite.
But creativity itself, in essence, does not grow. I mean, this is...
In essence, no.
Yeah.
No.
It does not. It is not created.
Yeah. It's not created, that's right. Good. But out of that thing which is not created, there can be a new man,
Yes.
a new society.
Yes. I mean, this creates a new brain that is not damaged. I mean.
Now, go back to the point. Why do I lose it? I have an insight into that profound thing, and it's lost after a day or after a month. Or it is or it's not lost at all, but comes same thing. Because all my tradition says, hold on to it.
Yeah.
Make it into a habit, bring it into all the rest of it. How subtle it all this is, huh?
Yes. Well, and others make it into a tradition, another tradition.
That's right, sir. Die to everything that thought has built as creation, as tradition. I think, you see, you speak from that depth, and I listen to you, and you explain all the movements of thought as time. That I understand very easily. And you say, so time must have a stop, otherwise you can't, there is no depth. So I hunger after it, practice, all the rest of rubbish grows. But if I listen to you and see the truth of what you say, not the rationalization of what you, but the truth of what you say. The truth being the perception of what you say, the total perception of what you say. I can only do that against all the pressure of tradition, everything that says, don't do this.
Or which also says, do it, but absorb it in this tradition.
Yeah, do it in order to get something else.
Well,
So I'm back. So what you tell me, I have to understand the subtlety, the reality, the depth of that reality. That thought is, etc. But you see, I won't listen to you when you go to such, you follow, to such extreme.
Yeah, it's hard to listen. I mean, if you propose abandoning all tradition, all culture, all
Exactly.
everything, then the brain may say, all right, but it sort of rejects it.
Oh, for God's sake, stop it. Yes, sir.
You see, the Chinese reputed to have absorbed all their conquerors. You see that all the barbarians came in and they all became Chinese. That's how it survived, you see, so that's what happens.
Yes, yes.
The non-tradition becomes tradition, you see. Yeah.
That's what the Hindus did with the Mughals.
Mm-hmm.
Quite.
Yeah, I think that is the most subtle feature by which the tradition absorbs the non-tradition.
Non-tradition, right. You see, sir, but I have to listen to you, or read you, or I have to be entirely with you in this. I can't because my wife is angry, or I am. You follow? Everything is against this. I have no leisure.
Yeah, and also to communicate with people, use that frame, the traditional frame, you see, it takes over.
It struck me, I don't know if you were reading this morning, I just read that Parapsychology.
Yes, I read it the other day.
Yeah. That's a new game they're going to go into.
Yes, well, it's already being absorbed into a new tradition.
New tradition. I was just thinking of that this morning. Ah. Now, sir, how can, at Brockwood, how can you how can you tell those students all this and they will absorb the reality of what you're saying and the truth of what you're saying? The reality, you know what I mean, and the truth. How can they, if I was a teacher there and I see what you're saying to be absolute truth, and I want to tell them about it. I want them to be non-traditional in the real sense. They come there conditioned, damaged. And the teachers are damaged. So what can you do? The whole society is against this.
Yes, well, yeah.
Everything is against this.
And see, the student or the child is in a society of his own, which has its tradition and demands its, its reality. It determines its own reality, and therefore, perhaps it's like the Australian and what you say is unreal.
Yeah, absolutely. The tradition of reality, quite right.
Yeah. To him, the real thing is what he's doing with his friends, and how they're getting together and their relationships and so on, and what he's going to do afterwards in society. So, see, this thing probably must seem unreal when you first hear it. No, it doesn't fit your reality.
Now it's my job to see that they get... to see that they they understand this. Everything is against it. Sex, pleasure.
Yeah, well, that's
money.
Yeah,
Everything is...
all those things which people say are really important, are the real life and so on. You see, it may seem like sort of if somebody first hears it, this is all abstraction. It's It's very
Of course.
distant from reality. Unless he is very dissatisfied, and unless he feels unhappy with reality. You see, in other words, I think that it must depend on the person.
This is the